Hey, it's me, the RWG, with a new update video. I swear, every time I do one of these kind of videos, I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I just get more and more nervous every time than the last that I'm going to annoy a bunch of you guys, or workers of these companies, or just these companies in general, which will then shadow ban me, like Twitter and YT, to name only a couple of them. Yeah, you heard that right. I just said UT instead of the other word. And I bet you're wondering why that is, huh? Well, censorship is getting so bad online now, I'm seeing people scared to even utter company names. It's getting that bad. Now, I won't say every news story on the internet is true. We live in the age of that other word as well, but it's been proven these big technology companies can do whatever they want to a point, and when they get caught being pieces of crap by the general public or the law, they can just turn around and say, oh, it's just a glitch, or oh, it's the algorithm messing up, or oh, our bot just made a mistake. When the truth of the matter is, if they really wanted to, they could just have some high-ranking member of their staff who doesn't like something they saw on the internet, so they just try and throttle all the exposure it gets. They have that level of power, and who's going to stop them and who can prove it? In fact, UT do this on a regular basis now. I'm not speaking specifically about me, I'm just talking in general here. They can't stop you making videos until you break the rules. But they can do a kind of form of something called gaslighting, which is kind of making you question your sanity if something really happened or not, the way you thought it did. And they can do this by throttling people's ability to see what you make, shadow banning your presence online, and that's only two ways. And the worst part is you really have to dig deep and look hard to find out if that's what they're doing or not. Otherwise, you just end up questioning the quality of everything you're making, why you're even doing any of this, and then if it keeps going down this path, you can go as far as just like really questioning your sanity and if you should be even making videos in the first place. I won't pretend all the purges on UT are UT's fault, but it would be equally naive for me to say that they've got nothing to do with it. Let's not forget that advertising companies kind of have UT by the balls right now. They can pretend some BS like, won't somebody please think of the children, is the reason they're doing it, but the reality is because a lot of things that happen online now is replacing old media. They have to adapt, take over, or they die, basically. To many people now, technology might as well be witchcraft. That's how much your average person understands about technology. And the people and companies who do understand this, though, take advantage of that almost daily. Hell, sometimes even I do. Big technology companies don't just want their businesses run by AIs to make their job easier. No. They also want everything run by AIs, so then it's harder to point fingers at people and blame bad behavior behind the scenes, because you can just pretend the machine was what did everything, because people don't understand what's actually happening. I'll give you a really basic example of this. Have you ever had a situation where, like in school or at work or whatever, you've had to deal with an annoying computer printer of some kind, when the ink cartridge would turn around and just say out of the blue, it's empty, but when you're checking the cartridges and everything, you can clearly see there's still some ink in there. Like, normally enough ink to actually ruin clothes with if you got violent with it. Which has sort of happened to me too on one occasion, by the way, minus the violence part. Well, that's just one basic way of how technology can get more money out of you. This simple manipulation of, oh, that's all we're going to let them have. It's like a more modern version of how we could make light bulbs which are more durable, last longer and everything, but we generally won't, because then people won't need to buy any more light bulbs. You see what I mean? When your thinking starts going down this track of how businesses behave to help them rather than to help everybody. It's scary stuff, and it can easily drive you a bit mad if you dwell on it too long. Knowledge is power, but it can also mess you up if you're not really mentally prepared to do anything with it. It's definitely done that to me at least once in the past. We have internet celebs being treated for mental health problems now, caused in part by these websites not respecting the business they're trying to run making video content. Meanwhile, they're also quietly trying to make their own homegrown talent and boost Hollywood celebs and TV shows instead of self-made content creators. And they think no one's going to notice this. They think no one's going to notice when you're suddenly pushing people to the top of the list. And they're going to pretend it's a natural thing.
When I was a kid, you only watched other
Oh God, it's back. It's the ghost of late night television. There's no telling how long that thing's been dead. Why have you come here, apparition? Is it to reclaim your lost relevance?
I am pumped to see Solo. Anybody else excited?
Oh, away, Spectre! They gave you the trending tab. What more do you want?
Nah, it's pretty effed up, to say the least. We left TV and newspapers and all that stuff to get away from it. That's why we came to the internet in the first place. If you're coming here to try and find us again, we're just gonna go somewhere else. And the harder you fight that, the harder we're gonna push back. Again, I'm repeating myself here, but this is just yet more examples of big companies with a lot of money trying to tell you what to watch, what to do, what to think, what to feel, but now also that they have a bigger stake in the internet, they're trying to decide who does and doesn't succeed, when it used to be just down to you guys, the viewers. Something else I've noticed is that successful variety content creators and streamers are becoming more and more rare. It's like they somehow changed the system in such a way now that you have to be loyal to just a few games if you want any clout. Gone are the days of people like Total Biscuit, for example, becoming a more well-known brand sometimes than some of the games that he's talking about and reviewing. Or at least they've made it a lot harder to get to that kind of status. Somehow, companies are banding together almost and trying to stop this, choosing to work with smaller content creators now instead because they know they'll be loyal to them. I'm just gonna say this right here and now. My fellow YouTube gamers, or whatever phrase you want to call it, I'm just gonna say some real talk right about now. They are trying to turn you into just their biased, personal walking, talking advertisement posters. And most of you are not even being paid to do it. Advertisers are also playing it boring and safe, while also perpetuating the wrong idea that video games are just for kids. Yet despite that, if anything has the slightest bit of blood, guts, or a bit of depth to the story or anything like that, they're just like, oh, can't run ads on that, too controversial! Too controversial, we can't have that at all. It's patronising, insulting, and just plain fucking wrong for a media industry which is now worth more than Hollywood. PewDiePie and friends, in their eyes, are too big for them to shut down now. They're independent mistakes. Tastemakers, trendsetters, whatever you want to call it. From their point of view, that must not happen again. That kind of celebrity must not happen again, in their opinion. But they can't get rid of those people, or the internet would lose their collective shit if you tried to do that. It doesn't mean they haven't tried to thin out their numbers, however. Egoraptor's wife's channel, Kitty Cat Gaming for example, got its outreach throttled, her views plummeted, people weren't seeing her videos, etc. Egoraptor of Game Grumps, of course, being one of the few VIPs who can actually talk to human beings who work inside YT, instead of just some robot who answers emails, he made a phone call to them to find out what was going on. Only for them to reply in cryptic terms, I'm pretty much paraphrasing here when I say this, yeah, I'd forget about that channel and work on your other ones if I were you. No concrete reason given, that is pretty much what they told them. It was almost like being told some beloved pet had cancer and there was nothing they could do. He might as well have said, I mean, it's not like we hate this channel you're running and want it shut down, but... We hate this channel and we want it shut down. Oh wait, except they can't use those exact words because they have to leave some level of reasonable doubt in their choice of words, because telling someone that on the YouTube platform is probably breaking some kind of law. And don't give me that shit about it being a private company and all this. It hasn't decided fully on purpose what exactly YouTube stands for, what exactly YT stands for. Because as soon as they define everything that they are, they have to uphold to those standards. Either way, stories like that are just more small blows to people's faith in YT and the belief, if we ever had it, I'm sure we did at one point, that YT is a fair website for everyone to use. YouTube elites, VIPs, basically people who speak to an audience and they actually listen to you, whatever you call yourself, who aren't puppets to do people like Google's bidding, I implore you, you need to start cultivating the next generation of content creators, because I can tell you right now, anyone you endorse will be way more interesting than whoever YouTube or their advertisers decide to come up with and try and promote them to the trending tab. I don't feel entitled to be the next PewDiePie, but at the same time I know for a fact that I'm on someone's blacklist somewhere, because it's not the first time it's happened to me. I once made someone so angry that they went onto my mostly cringy DeviantArt page a long time ago now and got a good chunk of the art removed. For no reason that I was breaking the rules or anything like that. No, it was just the fact that I basically pissed him off. On Newgrounds.com, an entertainment titan on the internet back in the day, I once made the mistake of pissing off Tom Fulp and getting removed from their more trusted reviewers team. And around the time Gamergate happened, I got removed from Facebook with no concrete reason given, and I never was given one. I pretty much had to make a new account, and then one day, out of the blue, suddenly the other account was working again. Again, no reason given. With the exception of the Tom Fulp Newgrounds thing, which was my dad, I completely admit to that. Those two other things are examples of acts of slimy, two-faced cowards who know they can't take you on directly, so they try and work around you. Not with you, just to shut you up. Make sure no one sees you, hears you, or just generally gives you a shit time. And what can you do about this? If you have money, which most people probably don't, you can take them to court, but what normally happens, which tends to have the best results, is you complain on Twitter about it. And you hope enough people hear you in order for them to basically not ignore you again. No, really, that's the only method I've seen which works, that doesn't involve money. Except that then we run into another problem, because then what happens when Twitter and whatever website you pissed off are buddies, so then Twitter shadow bans you in order to protect their technology buddy, which is another website, so then no one sees your complaints that you're making on Twitter because nowhere else can you write about it where people will see it. And yeah, can you see why this sneaky, underhanded, almost technology cartel BS is a problem? Am I painting a picture for you here yet? Where these problems can kind of come in. This is why we have a YouTubers Union forming, which I have no idea if they'll actually achieve anything, but good job on them trying. This is why we have alternative social media and video websites showing up, but companies which already made it are doing everything in their power they can get away with to stop them and generally shut them down. This is why a fitness YouTuber lost her shit and went to the YT HQ and had a shooter rampage because they changed the algorithm and basically messed up her business. YT promised everyone this land of free expression like a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow more than a decade ago now. But now they're all rich and powerful off our backs. We're suddenly not good enough for them. And worse than that, they think they're qualified to boss us around and decide who does and doesn't succeed like a gatekeeper in subtle and not so subtle ways. Once again, repeating myself from another video here, I've never wanted to be political. That's never been of interest to me in the slightest. I just wanted to contribute something worthwhile to the World Wide Web because it's done so much for me. But that's what a lot of the current situation online boils down to. So I've been forced to learn about all this corruption and different types of political opinion and things like that in detail pretty much since Gamergate. Powerful pieces of crap getting irrational levels of angry at things they don't like and then lashing out and punishing people they see as beneath them, and then somehow we're supposed to trust those people who work for those companies. Fuck no. MatPat of Game Theory doesn't tell everything, but it does a lot of explaining about what's happening on YT in terms of gaming content and kind of online in general. There's a panel around here somewhere on your screen for his videos on the subject, or links in the description if you're curious about that and want to learn more.
He has pretty numbers and charts and transitions.
Anyway, we had that gigantic speech sounding like a skeptic channel just now. And we barely talked about me at all in my situation, huh? Don't worry, I promise I'm getting to that right now, right after I have a little bit of a personal backstory with you guys. Hopefully, I'm not going to be sharing too much here. This whole internet thing is one of humanity's greatest inventions. That's undeniable. It was where me and countless others went when the world just got boring to us. Or worse still, this might sound familiar to you depending on the kind of person you are. If you're anything like me, people didn't understand you or just didn't even care to. My history, I'll try not to overshare, but I suppose, to put it in as few words as possible, I got lectured by hypocrites throughout my childhood and teens on how I should behave, even going as far as basically calling me a monster at one point until I did what they said. But no matter what I did to change, it just never seemed good enough to them. And I continued to get bullied and generally be ostracized, which is a really fancy word for basically singling someone out, not letting them be in part of a group or anything like that because they're weird or whatever, because they don't think the same as everyone else, because you're basically not a sheep. But by that point, school didn't care anymore about my problems because I wasn't deemed a threat anymore. Even though I was probably close to like bipolar of being like, oh, got to be good, got to constantly think about other people, and then sometimes just snapping and being like, no, F everything. Going from one extreme to the other. I never understood at the time, but I know now a lot of those people never even followed the same rules that they tried to drill into my brain almost every day until I finally listened to them. However, eventually I just came to the understanding of, why should I? Why should I be held to these standards that you don't even hold yourself when I'm not even breaking the law? Enough was enough, so once I discovered how much potential online had, it took a lot of my free time, as all this new information, forms of entertainment, and ways of thinking just filled my head. I admit I probably sacrificed my innocence spending so much time online. But some of the things I've learnt here would have taken a lot more time, money, and probably blood, sweat and tears if I tried to learn those same lessons and knowledge offline. College and university standard education, often for free, if you know where to look. And all kinds of weird and wonderful entertainment like nothing you've seen before, to say the least. So between all of that and starting college, I suddenly didn't completely hate myself anymore. Seeing and learning so much was just intoxicating, and with something resembling self-esteem finally forming in my head, combined with all that past treatment I had in the past, I'll admit, it made me pretty wrathful. If you want something really easy to compare me to, I won't lie when I say some of my ego probably had a few things in common with Vegeta. There, I said it. I gave you something nice and easy to compare to. I remember on more than one occasion where if someone didn't understand something online or technology in general, I would almost have a kind of like smug tone in my voice, which I know in hindsight is kind of a shitty thing to do. But that was just some of the wrath from what had happened in the past manifesting itself, I suppose. Oh, did I mention I've been taking a lot more interest in things like psychology and philosophy lately? You can probably tell that from the way I'm phrasing some of this, can't you? My peers in college still goofed around a lot, but at least I wasn't being bullied anymore. Though I admit I made the mistake of thinking most of them were just distractions who would get in my way and my goals. Don't make that mistake, kids. If this all sounds dangerously close to oversharing, self-righteous entitlement, then I can only say at this point, it's just this lingering desire I have to redeem myself somehow, and inspire others to, I guess, do the same, give back to the world somehow. I've often been asked now, what do you want to do with your life? To which I now find myself often replying, I think you mean, what am I allowed to do? Since whatever I make now is now at the mercy of both you guys watching and now websites like YT's strict advertising policies. That's just what it feels like right now. Pair that with the constant worry of things like shadow banning, boycotting, cancel culture. There's basically this building constant fear I'm sure me and countless other people are getting of you're going to annoy some irrational group of people online, so then they're going to come after you and or try and ruin your career and life. It's all frustrating, nerve-wracking stuff. And it's why I feel the way I do and have for some time now. Meanwhile, all the rich elites, hypocrites, and their brown-nosing friends take over everything. After using us as pawns to make websites like UT great in the first place, then dumping us, I cannot put into words how angry that makes me. Creativity and creation in general should be some great happy place for everyone. But for me, at least, it just doesn't feel like that at the moment, really. Most of the time, it feels more like spending hours on things than throwing it into some black hole where no one will see it, while other things I make which I barely care about get all the attention. It's probably a destructive way of thinking, I probably need to get past this, but I don't have a solution yet. As per usual, I'm not giving up, I just feel stuck. Like I'm trying to fire a gun in a pitch black room. I'm using gun terms too much in this video, YouTube's probably not going to be happy about that. Moving on, I mentioned before in another video how we now have a Digibunker Discord channel, didn't I? Well, that's had mixed results. It's been a bit dead lately, and a big reason for that is because I ghosted, to be perfectly honest with you, for a while. Probably about a couple of weeks, give or take, a month, something like that. Most of the members who join only seem to want to spend their time with me on there. Then they get offended or upset or something along those lines because I physically can't do that in a healthy way on top of everything else I'm trying to do. I don't want to get bitter when people want my free time but have no interest in what I'm trying to build. But I can't deny that I felt that a few times. It was never my intention to become some sort of e-celeb. That only became a factor once I realised that whatever I make online isn't good enough to sell just by itself. It needs some sort of persona attached to it. The Digibunker Discord is not the Shinko Discord, or the Skei Discord, or whatever name you know me by. The Digibunker Discord is meant to be a group of people who can make new friends and have some sort of smart discussion about the web, games, technology, and maybe anime and movies, I suppose? Something along those lines. It was never supposed to be just about me. But that seems like what people want more, and well, now I'm aware that that's happening, I'm both flattered and a little scared that I'll disappoint all of you at some point. Good old imposter syndrome. I won't pretend for 1 second that I'm as popular as someone like Jacksepticeye. Not even a fraction. But I understand now some of the pain that he's mentioned before of wanting to help almost every person who graces you with their free time by paying attention to you. But you just simply can't do it. It's not physically possible. Humans aren't designed to cope with having 2,000 friends, or 500, let alone millions. But at least if they're smart, they'll at least appreciate every bit of support they get from all those people. You guys are the reason that these aren't just a set of videos of somebody basically slowly losing their mind. At this point in my life, I've just been going through the motions, hoping for the best, even though deep down I know I can do better for myself and everybody else. But with so much corruption out there now, you just find yourself wondering, what's the point? When some kiss ass with no standards will achieve more than you in a fraction of the time. Am I speaking the truth anymore in this video? Is this video a rambling mess? Have I just been depressed for such a long time in my life now that I don't even notice it anymore? Honestly, I think it's a combination of these things. But you'll never guess how I realised a lot of what I'm talking about right now. VR chat. Yes, that VR chat. The one working on becoming Second Life 2, also memes, has been a weird experience to say the least. There's been a lot of time wasting on there, but there's also been indescribable moments too. Like amazing, creative and talented people that I wonder why they aren't making a living out of how much talent is just oozing from their being. But strangely for me, hanging out on there has made me aware that I don't want to feel anything emotionally kind of tsundere. It started off as a joke, except over time I realised it was kind of true. And I think it's been slowly killing my health. Putting so much effort to not want to be overcome by any kind of emotion whatsoever, so you just try and store everything inside yourself somehow. So I'm trying to change that habit about me to something more reasonable that isn't going to give me an early death. But briefly going back to VR chat though, despite what a strange reputation that has, I've heard stories from people of how that game, if you can call it that, has saved them from depression, suicide, the list goes on with all the problems it's helped people cope with. So, as weird as that game or whatever is, it's got to be doing something right? Hell, there's a whole type of YouTube video that you can Google, which is basically people talking about VR chat help them with their personal problems, if that's the sort of thing you're interested in. So, where does this strange epiphany I've had leave me? Well, the last few years, I've taken a bigger interest in psychology and philosophy, as I said before, trying to learn what makes everyone act and think the way they do. And it's made me, I hope, a bit more mindful and humble. Oh yeah, I should also probably mention as well that way back when I was first online, I somehow managed to get a bunch of people who all looked up to me. I'm still not quite sure why this is a thing even now, but that group has kind of all branched off. They're going on to live in their own lives. They're all in work now as well as I am, and we still talk occasionally, but the group's not as strong as it used to be, I guess. Which is part of what Digibunker is really, I suppose. It's trying to reignite that a little bit, trying to make it something a bit more self-sustaining. So who knows, maybe one day it could be such a big thing that the original founders might not even be part of it anymore, but lots of new people can still become friends and everything through that group, maybe. In the current content creation climate, it's probably a bit old-fashioned, but there was a part of me that also wanted to have like a team of people who all make their own content for videos as well, maybe all being under the DigiBunker banner, but well, all the talented people I know now are either in work or they just don't have any motivation for whatever reason. So we just keep plodding along really, trying to keep up with everything. Mostly failing, occasionally succeeding. Not to mention, I have a group of people I've met on VR chat now who, to say the least, want me to do something completely different. Which I don't know how I feel about. I just don't want to be trapped in any one kind of video. Maybe that's smart, maybe that's paranoia, I just know that's how I feel. And I'm fairly confident this video has just turned into rambling now, so I think it's safe to end it there really. Reminder again, there's links around here somewhere, and yeah, I think we can end it there really. This is me, the RWG, aka the Skay, saying thank you for sticking with me in this rambling video, but I hope it's helpful somehow. I'll see you next time.